You're listening to Errol, Parker and Clancy Overell, editors of the Betoota Advocate on Desert Rock FM.
Welcome back to Betoota Talks, our weekly interview segment here on the Betoota Advocate. My name's Clancy Overell. I'm joined by editor-at-large Errol Parker.
It's good to be here, Clancy.
It is. It's exciting. Bit of a gear change from all of our pre-election chit-chat with all those useless politicians.
Yeah, all those Canberra social climbers.
But now, today, we have someone who actually works for a living. We have Crumlin in the house. Thank you for joining us, Dermot Kennedy.
What's up? How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. It's great to have a musician come through here, especially one that I guess has shown such love for Australia over the years. You were just saying before, nine or so times visiting Australia.
I think so, roughly. Yeah, between festivals and headline shows and all that kind of thing. But the shows are always just good. I remember vividly. The worst I ever felt vocally was in Australia playing a festival, and it was the closest I ever came to pulling a gig last minute because I was in big trouble vocally, and I had to fix it afterwards and all that kind of stuff. But the crowd were just brilliant. Yeah, so.
They carried you.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So you've been here a few times. Can you tell us your first time you ever came down to the 33rd county?
The reason my sister used to live in Fremantle, right?
Yeah,
so that's the first time I was here. Yeah.
The 34th county.
Yeah,
Western Australia.
Which is interesting, right? Because oftentimes your tours don't go there.
Yeah.
The only show that I haven't honoured that was pulled because of COVID is Perth.
Yeah, right.
I did everything. I made up for every single thing, and that one was the one I didn't get to. So people kind of hate me because we came back and got to do the Australian tour, but Perth was still under different restrictions, I guess. Yeah. So we didn't get to go there.
Yeah.
They were real lockdown.
Really?
They're quite isolated in many ways over in Perth. Like,
well,
they're isolated by distance and borders during the pandemic.
It's the most isolated city with a population over 1 million.
Oh, I think I've heard this before. Yeah,
it's the furthest away from the next one, which I think is somewhere in Indonesia.
Right. Wow.
And that's why the Irish love it. Because they want to go on the other side of the planet away from everyone.
It's far away.
Yeah, I have a. You know, the classic thing is Irish people love it here, of course, but it's so far from home.
Yeah.
And my cousin used to live in Melbourne and adored it. And anytime someone says that, he's like, it's not far enough.
Yeah.
I need it to be further.
Well, I met someone the other day, 5 siblings. 5 siblings. I mean, that's the Irish way, right? A lot of the young people go out and see the world.
Yeah, completely. And they're all out here, all 5 of them?
Yeah.
No way. Yeah, I guess like it's, there's a place in Ireland called Inishmore. It's an island off the west coast, and it's super remote and isolated. And, when you're 18, 19, 20, it's almost a choice you make for what kind of life you want to have. Do you know what I mean? Because for me, I live in Dublin and kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I think I'll always be there. Yeah. I kind of have the best of both worlds. Do you know what I mean? Because I get to travel a lot, but I love being home.
Now, I want to talk to you about... we're going to talk about real local knowledge here. What about the markets in town in Dublin? About them? They're trying to close down the markets.
Well, they're trying to build one back up, right? There's like an ancient vegetable market is being done up again. Yeah.
They're redoing the markets.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the Toasties and Grogan's.
Yeah, classic. Yeah. And the pints and Toasties. It's a real thing. That place is rammed at the weekends. Have you been?
No, we haven't. We've been to Dublin. We met the Waterford Whispers guys.
Yes,
our kindred spirits.
Yeah. They took us out in Tremor. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they said come to the Ritz. It was the middle of winter, and it was in the weeks just before COVID.
Okay.
So we left here, and there was the new sort of bug was going about. And, on the news, it's like, there's this new bug that's coming out in China, maybe you shouldn't go overseas. And we're like, oh, fuck that, blah, blah, blah. So we go over there, have the time of our lives in Ireland, get very sick over there with a respiratory illness that we just put down to smoking and drinking for 10 days.
Yeah, you're patient zero.
Yeah. But while we were there, we met these guys at the Ritz at Tremor.
Okay.
And we had... one of the biggest nights of our young lives.
Really?
The quietest pub you could find.
In Tremor. I used to go to Tremor for the theme park is very generous, but for the carnival.
Yes. I want to talk to you about your youth. Soccer looked like, was it soccer football?
Yeah.
Is that the type of football we're talking about?
Yes.
That looked like something you were going to do?
in my dreams, you know?
right.
Yeah, like
Something-
every sort
something
of
you thought you
young
were
kid.
gonna
Now.
do.
Yeah. Like deluded, you know what I mean? Like me and my
Yeah.
friends, you know, when you're 13 and you would talk about it and you're like, I think I'll go somewhere small first, like Tottenham Hotspur, and then move on. It's just completely wild. But just a very important part of my life. I had to stop playing because I started traveling with music so much. But yeah, I miss it. It's a different part of my brain. And it's much more relaxed than the musical side, you know? So when you're on stage, you're constantly thinking, and it's all very present and intense and emotional. Football, my mind is just clear. Yeah. So I miss that.
I've heard that there's a lot of different accents in Dublin, and then there's certain ways that you're able to pick up on one. One famous Irish accent that we had in Australia for years was Alan Joyce. Who was the head of Qantas. He was from Tala.
Was he? Yeah.
Yeah. And we were speaking to this Irish bloke at the pub a couple of years ago, and he says, I know that he's from this certain part of Tala. Can you...
Oh, really?
Can you immediately pick another person from Dublin and exactly where they're from?
From the area?
Yeah.
No. But it's interesting. Like the way I sound... I grew up like 10 minutes from Tala, and I would just sound completely different. Yeah. It's almost, I feel like it's almost determined by what school you went to and stuff like that. Yeah. But there are tons. If you think about like in America, how someone from New York sounds different from someone in Nashville. Yes, they do sound different, but like, you know, thousands of miles. And in Ireland, there's just hundreds of accents. And
we heard that the D4 is certainly looked down upon.
Yeah.
You know, like
I would be accused of that a little bit.
If you're a wanker from Ranelagh,
No, completely.
Okay.
Yeah. And that one does wind you up a bit.
Yeah.
I would much prefer the Tala accent to someone.
like the people who go and watch the Six Nations.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's mad within Dublin. Like a friend of mine lives in one of those areas, and I was hanging out with him recently, and I could hear the guys next to us in the coffee shop, and I was like, "It's mental to me that you guys are from the same place."
Yeah.
Do you know, it's wild.
It is. It's a matter of street smarts as well, right? You hear certain accents, you go, well, maybe we won't wind those lads up at the bar.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
They're from that neighbourhood.
Yes.
I want to talk about this, I guess, renaissance in Irish culture that we're seeing around the world.
True. Yeah.
Japan's having a similar thing right now. You know, we've got the Shogun, and people are traveling back to Japan, particularly Australians anyway.
Right.
There's a lot of interest in Japan, and there's a lot of interest in Ireland, and it's a different kind of interest compared to the 90s. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When we had Flatley with the River Dance, and we had Enya, and we had all of that, and we had the Cranberries. There was also like
the Irish version of In Excess.
yes.
You too?
Yes. We had them. And then we also had, you know, all the films, right? So you had Brad Pitt doing an accent, which I'm sure you all remember because it wasn't the best. And you had all that. And we had the backdrop of the Troubles and everything like that.
Yep.
But what we've seen now is it's a different kind of Irish culture that's being exported around the world. And you're kind of a big part of that. It's more about contemporary Ireland. Who are we now?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, and who were we?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's almost as if the music is celebrated, but I guess acting in particular the last couple of years is just enormous, right?
Barry,
Paul, Cillian, of course, Saoirse Ronan, and I don't know. It's funny. You kind of take it for granted because you're from there, but on a global scale, I guess it's kind of cool. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's you do feel it. And again, I think it's something I take for granted. But particularly for me, if I'm on like the East Coast of the States, you definitely feel there's a camaraderie there immediately, and you can, when you play in a room, you just tell people there's a love for Irish people, which is lovely. It's a nice place to start off at, but music, like you were saying, Fontaines are here at the moment, and all like that kind of. It's just cool to me. I think there's room for everybody. I think one thing we do in Ireland is support each other and lift each other up, and there's a pride when we go around the world. But it's wild.
It's also Ireland's one of those cultures where you have people like you, where it's either sport or music, you know what I mean? So many other cultures, it's like the music kids go this way at a young age, and the jocks go this way. But music is part of your culture for all of you.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, we were talking about it just a few minutes ago at breakfast. My mom always says this thing about my gigs, that in terms of like a gender split amongst people that go to my shows, it's pretty even because there's a ton of guys my age who just have this like pent up emotion.
Yeah.
And I don't know. My mom always kind of remarks on it. She's like, there's always like guys arm in arm down the back, like just in tears, you know? And so they kind of need that, I think. And so, yeah, music is just part of...
And then you've got the girls cheering up the front.
But there is, music is just part of what we do. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like even if you're locked into a pub with 10 people at the end of a night, someone will sing.
Yeah.
And they won't be a singer and they won't be a musician even, but they just have it in them. Yeah.
Where Australians need particularly special circumstances for
right,
that to happen.
Yeah,
It needs to be...
and like a circle of men, you know, with their arms around each other, having to belt out a song from the mid 80s that's about being a disenfranchised war veteran. You know, that's about it.
Yeah, Springsteen, Cold Chisel, that's the type of songs we know how to sing.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about this word that I've learned.
Sure.
Mish-nyach. It's courage.
Exactly.
It's courage in Gaelic. This is what you're touring right now.
Yeah, completely. We're going to do, so in 2 weeks, we'll do a show here. It's like a festival. I'm starting a festival. Basically, Patrick's Day, you guys know what it's like.
Yeah.
It's a party. It's fantastic. Everyone likes Ireland, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. But like, it's a nice segue, to be honest, because we're talking about Irish art and how it's appreciated in the world.
Yeah.
It just feels like that isn't part of that day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like
Sure.
it isn't,
It's,
you know?
There's more to Ireland than Guinness.
Yeah, exactly.
It's for a lot of people to have their annual half pint of Guinness.
Well, Australia,
And then just feel like, oh, that was nice. I'll have a green Tui's new now.
It's like a green milkshake.
Yeah.
But I think there's an opportunity there to kind of actually celebrate Irish music and Irish art and culture. And, you know, who knows where it's going to go. It's year one. We'll do Sydney and Boston this year. Two places that I think are very tied to Ireland and very, you know, there's tons of Irish people in both places. And so it's just exciting. You know, like, it's interesting. It's been a funny learning experience when you're trying to get your favorite acts and you talk to them and then something comes up because they're on tour, et cetera, et cetera. But like the acts that have said yes, like you're talking about U2 and all that kind of, like the Frames are playing before I play, which is nuts to me because they don't play very often. Glenn Hansard was a very important artist to me when I was coming up. And I'm kind of blown away by the fact that they've said yes in particular.
You've got a bit of a tight turnaround too. You're trying to do St. Paddy's Day effectively in both Sydney and Boston.
Exactly, yeah. Without ending up doing neither, because we'll be on a plane on Patrick's Day. So we're going 16th of March here, and the show at TD Garden in Boston is on the 19th. So yeah,
Gosh.
we'll get a day back though, right?
Yeah.
You go around the back of the map.
On the way back.
Yeah. I've met people who've missed birthdays doing that.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this new interest in Irish language and Irish culture from the youth particularly.
Yeah.
It hasn't been motivated by anything in particular. You know, once upon a time it might have been motivated by conflict, or it might have been motivated by, you know, history being a fear that history was kind of being taken from them. Or
I guess it's
covered
that,
up.
right?
It's still that, you think?
To some degree, I would say so.
Yeah.
Even globally, you know, like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's like a weirdly tense time. And so Irish people have always been very proud. So I don't know if my generation is maybe a bit more determined to kind of keep that intact.
Yeah.
But like you think about it, like the pockets of Ireland that truly speak Irish every day, tiny, like just like a fraction of people that do that. And so you think about Kneecap, for example, is a very important part of what they do. And like I went to an Irish speaking primary school, so it was an important part of my life. My auntie lives in the Gaeltacht, so she's just speaking Irish constantly. So it's important, but I don't know, like truthfully, if I was at home, I wouldn't feel this. I wouldn't say like I feel a massive upsurge in kind of people talking about it and thinking about it. I hope it continues.
It just exists under the surface.
I would say so, and everyone does it in school, and some people kind of like it more than others, but yeah, I mean, it'd be sweet if it came back. But,
There was that bar on Harcourt Street that we went to that was, you could only speak Irish in.
Well, we were speaking Irish by the end.
Speaking in tongues. What bar was
it? I'm not sure, but we had to go with a mate of ours who could speak Irish, and he said, "Don't speak the Queen's in here." We're like, "Okay, sure." And then he would talk to his mates, and then every time he'd come back with a round, he'd go, "All right, slancha."
Yeah.
And that was the only word that we said.
Street. It was what? Peter Brown's.
No.
Patter Brown's?
Patter Brown's.
Right.
No, that was the Rebel Bar where they were doing all those
naughty songs.
all the songs. Yeah. No,
Do you know who was in that bar like last night was Henrik Larsson.
Yeah, right.
Played for Celtic.
Really?
Yeah, he's doing like a talking tour. And so Henrik Larsson was in Batterbrown.
Yeah.
No, this one was just down from Copperface Jack's.
Yeah,
The,
right.
Coppers, yeah. Did you go into Coppers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did. We
I guess you
good.
have to.
we went in there. We
Yeah,
realized
you know,
God has
our,
forgotten those people in that bar. It
Our
was wild.
hotel was on Harcourt Street, and
Yeah.
it had this window that we could open, and we'd just come in from the street in our jackets, and we're like, "Fuck, it's hot in here,"
Yeah.
you know. So we opened up a window, and then
Fell asleep.
we went to bed, and in the morning,
Fucking cold.
the bloke who was against the window in the bed, he woke up and there was snow over his doona cover.
They're like icicles.
No, and
no.
that's like night one of a 10-day trip.
Yeah.
We're like, man,
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah.
get sick. We can't do that. But it's a fun part of the world, and you're from Crumlin, which is an interesting part of Dublin in the sense that there's so much history steeped in it. We were just talking before. You've got sports stars, you've got musicians,
Yep.
you've got politicians, you've got it's
You got Phil in it.
yeah
Huge.
Thin Lizzy.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so-
I mean, like, which is the coolest potentially. I'm not even from Crumlin. I'm from about 15 minutes down the road. They're just a very good football team.
So you played for them.
Yeah, so I played for my local team until I was 17.
Yeah.
And it was me and all my friends and all that kind of stuff. And then it sort of fizzled out, and so I ended up going to Crumlin. I wish I played for them for longer because it's a class team. But yeah, I don't know. You've probably seen it, and I'll probably mess it up. But do you ever see that thing Phil Lynott says about kind of if I'm traveling, I tell people I'm from Ireland. If I'm in Ireland, I tell people I'm from Crumlin.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
I'm in Crumlin, I tell people I'm in Lynott. I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is like that. And just you saying that, then I was like, 15 minutes down the road means a lot in Dublin. It's like
Yeah, different place
yeah.
entirely.
Yeah.
Oh, like when I was trying to play for them, I was kind of like, am I really going to go down there? But yeah.
will they have me?
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
So you mentioned Kneecap before. Have you had much to do with those lads? Different part of Ireland completely.
Different part of Ireland, different sort of, different.
Different genre.
That's
different
true.
Scene.
But I met them at a funny place actually. So you can do US customs in Dublin Airport,
Yeah.
which is sweet. So you just land and get off the plane in the States. But I met them there the week they had just pulled out of South by Southwest.
Yeah, right.
And kind of very openly said sort of like the US government is supporting the genocide in Palestine. And I was just like, I was at customs with these guys. I was like, this potentially won't go very well for you. But it did. And they're brilliant. They were lovely. I hadn't met them before. And I guess this was this time last year almost. So just lovely guys. I'm just excited. Yeah. I can't wait to see them. I just want to be at the festival. I just want to be side of stage all day long watching these people.
Yeah, of course, you've got the best of the best.
Yeah.
Right? It's an interesting thing we said before about sport and music goes hand in hand with a lot of young lads in Ireland. But if you look at these guys of Kneecap, and politics goes hand in hand with all of that too.
Yes.
That is that a thing you see with the young Irish?
I do a bit, and like
yeah.
you think about someone like Hosier, like some of his songs have had such an impact in terms of like global issues and stuff. Sometimes I think about that when I'm in the studio, right? Like if you sit down and like I'm going to write a song about this, but I don't know if I'm not. I'm reluctant to say I'm not that type because someday it could happen naturally, but also I don't. I think it's pointless for me to sit down and be like I'm going to write about this thing I saw in the news and I'm upset about. But for people where it has its place, like Kneecap and Hosier when he feels like it. Yeah, it's just cool to me. It's a beautiful thing, right? Because you know, like I think a lot of people argue that music can't change the world these days. It's it's so saturated, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's nice to see that. It kind of brings people together.
It's an interesting one. In Australia, we know all too well Australian nationalism has its place, particularly when summer cricket. That's when we Australians really get out and about.
Or Anzac Day.
Or Anzac Day, that nationalism is kind of more solemn, and we have all those things, where we grieve and and we remember those who served, but it is also a tricky line, nationalism, right? And
definitely.
And Australians do have to be careful, and sometimes we have multiple incidents. Famous incidents where it started looking a little bit exclusive.
Yeah.
And how do you manage that in Ireland? Because our Irish nationalism and Irish pride are completely different to what we'd see in America. Like the proud American flag waving American, or the Australian, or the British. Like British nationalism can get very hairy very quickly. Of
course.
How do you kind of manage that with young people, particularly who are so passionate and want to show pride? How do you make that? Cast a wide net. Of
course,
everyone's involved.
Yeah, and I think I think it's about your place in history, right? Like I think Ireland's been on the back foot for a long time, or was previously. So, you know, if the line of taking it too far is here, I think we're still miles from it. You know what I mean? And I think because I have thought about it because. I joked about it even with someone close to me. I was just like, this is wild. Like, imagine me doing a festival and like Irish artists only. That's the only way it can be. Like, it's nuts. But there is that pride that, you know, we're welcomed, I like to think, wherever we go. And yeah, I think throughout history, you know, like it's different for the US and the UK. It's like, you know, they've had it their own way for a very long time. Yeah. So I don't think it can just seem aggressive if you're from those places. But from Ireland, it's just generally. Also, it's not done in an aggressive way, and it's just generally like this healthy sense of pride. You see it like football tournaments, all that stuff. I think Irish fans are well received. But yeah, I think throughout history, yeah, like I said, I think we're a long way off that line where we take it too far. But also, you know, like the Irish music scene is quite diverse too, you know, like that the net is wide there, I would like to think, you know, and like I said, there's just support there constantly. So yeah.
I mean, thinking back to Thin Lizzy as well, you know what I mean? Like one of the first real pop stars from Crumlin, who's a big name in Crumlin, you know, was a black man. You know, and that was what defined Irish rock at the time.
Yes. And not to say Ireland, like, oh, there's never been a problem in history and there's a problem currently. Yeah. But I, like you say, it's just sweet that guy around that time, everyone, like, you know, Irish people were happy enough to just be like, he's fucking cool.
There's a merriment to it. There's a merriment to St. Paddy's Day as well, you know. It's, and also there's almost like this bittersweetness. Remember the Rugby World Cup? Everyone else in the world was watching that run that the Irish were on there, and
totally
playing the Cranberries at the end of the match.
Oh, yeah.
It was almost
the World
haunting.
Cup just gone.
Yeah. It was almost haunting, and it's not at all like, you know, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, or it's nothing like that. It's kind of this completely highly emotionally intelligent, kind of.
Well, you think about, you said the word solemn, like the history is like that. So, and you think about what the song Zombie is about. It's just like, it's not all nice stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like I think for me, even if I release not lighthearted, but if I release music that's like a bit more up and a bit, you know, not as kind of dark, I like to think that side of me, just from being who I am, will always find its way into it. There's always that depth, hopefully. So in the Irish experience, I guess it's always just there. Yeah. I feel like the Irish rugby team is at a point now though, where people kind of love seeing them lose a little bit. Do you think?
Yeah. Well, and that's what Zombie's kind of like as well. It's it's not unconditional pride, man.
In their boot-cut jeans and their Chelsea boots.
I was at that game, the South Africa match in Paris. That was unbelievable. But then they lost.
Yeah, I mean, it is great when you go on a run too, especially from like a smaller nation from the scheme of things, you know. Australia feels that way with the women's soccer, you know. Right. When the Matildas are on a run, it's amazing because we know that we're punching above our weight. And I guess Ireland's a bit the same too. You think of the sports market that you have 3 codes that are bigger than rugby before you start. You know, before you start looking at who's available to play prop. You've got
and even within Dublin, it's such a, you know, like my school, like we barely had a rugby team. The last year I was there, it's not a thing. No. It's just not. So the standard, I don't know how the standard is so high, but it's unreal. And
just got the cattle. I mean, and the cattle is quality as opposed to like there'd be less people playing rugby in Ireland than there probably are in New South Wales.
My dad says this, but I think in comparison to Manchester and England even.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Did you play any of those domestic Irish games growing
up? Play
Gaelic
a bit. I don't like that if you're playing halfback and your fella runs 90 yards, you have to follow him. I quite liked soccer, the way you pass someone on and you know, you're like, he's coming towards you, you take him. Gaelic was wild to me. Those guys are like insane conditioning.
We always used to laugh when they'd try and play this international games where we'd have the best of the Australian football AFL versus the best of the GAR, and it's like, we're professional athletes. They're all getting paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions, and they're getting bashed around the head by the postman from Sligo, who wins not only the match but the fist fight as well.
It's wild. I mean, like, of course, the magic of it is that guys aren't getting paid, etc. But also, sometimes you're like, these guys are training every day of the week, and then trying to get up to teach a class or to be a policeman. Like it is insane. It's beautiful, but also there was that game in Croke Park there a long time ago. That was kind of a massacre.
Oh yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible. It made AFL very enjoyable for us who don't. We're from the States who don't really watch it, but we were like, we could watch more of this.
Yeah.
Tell us about celebrity though, because that's a really funny one. You in your Gaelic sports.
Yeah.
These guys aren't allowed to get played. It encourages this localism where you have to play for where you're from.
Yeah.
Which makes it even sweeter when a rural town wins, right?
And there's guys who've won the All Ireland 5 times with their county, and then winning with their club will just be the biggest moment of their life.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting that these guys are able to live in 2 worlds where they have to maintain a job. Yes. And they have to, but they still have that celebrity status that you would have as an Australian athlete, as a professional athlete.
Yeah, I mean, like, is there a teeny comparison to, I don't know, you see like in American, like high school sports, like local heroes. I think there's a lot of that.
That's it. They still get the chicks, but they don't get any money.
But it's kind of brilliant, right? Because they're older, so they're members of the community. I don't know. It's pretty cool. It is. It was never a massive part of my life, but I do admire it an awful lot,
I hear that the Irish in general are pretty respectful of celebrity.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Like there was that famous article with Cillian Murphy.
Right.
Was like, he used to own this house where the door just opened onto the street.
I saw this,
And he was like, it's like, your monsters are forcing me to sell my house and buy one with a gate. So you can't come to my window.
Stand outside my door.
Can't come and knock on my door and be like, hi.
So the Irish like to think that they leave celebrities alone.
I guess phones and social media potentially affected this. Like there's a studio down the country called Grouse Lodge that Michael Jackson went to. I think I could have this wrong, but it was a studio in Ireland he went to and I think he was going to go for 3 weeks, ended up staying for 3 months and kind of lived there. And he would go to this pub in the town and drink wine down the back. It was Michael Jackson, and he would.
Can I please have a
and he was just
2 pints, please.
And he was just left alone.
Yeah,
and it was this thing where people famously would just not bother him. Yeah. There is that, people like, I think, but the flip side of it is that everybody's quite familiar as well.
Yeah.
And we all, it's such I'd say people have a fair idea of what I'm like, so they can approach me as if we're mates, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And I like it. And to be honest, like, talking about celebrity, like, I feel like I'm at this lovely sweet spot where if I meet somebody who likes my music or knows who I am, we just have a nice conversation.
Yeah.
Then if it can't be that, then I don't want to do it anyway. So
the iPhone has changed it where now even the most, as you said before, humble Irishman feels the need to get a photograph with someone because they can.
Yeah. But Cillian Murphy's a good example. Do you know what I mean? Like he's so focused on his craft and all that kind of stuff. He isn't a very public person, I would say. Yeah. And like Irish people are like that quite a bit. There's like certain elements of my life are very private and people don't know about it. And I would even talk to other artists about that, and they're like, "I didn't know that." And I was like, "Why would you know that?
Yeah.
Do you know, why would I talk about it, or why would it make it?" Like I feel very lucky in the sense that I get to tour my music, and that's part of my life. But that's all I want to give.
We had an interview with a famous cricketer from Australia called Mike Whitney. He was a character. He might have even been on TV in Ireland.
Yeah,
he was a game show host in the end, but he was a famous cricketer. And he said that over familiarity, especially for sports stars, where they've heard them in the post-match interviews, they've read their autobiographies, they think they know them.
Yeah.
And he said, this guy walked up to him in the shops the other day and goes, "Mike Whitney, I didn't know you lived in Maroubra." He goes, "How the fuck would you?" I don't know where you live.
Like, why would you know that? Yeah. No, I am into that. Yeah, and like my hero growing up was Roy Keane, the footballer.
Yeah,
who's just so intensely like he came to one of our gigs, and even when he came backstage, I was like, "Hello, I don't want to ask you anything. I don't want to bother you at all." He actually just spoke to my mom the whole time, which was sweet.
And that's the next thing. Irish mammy. How does your mum? The Irish mammy archetype is real. No one likes a stereotype.
Yeah.
We must be wary.
I feel like my mom breaks it definitely too. Sorry,
she does?
Yeah, maybe.
She doesn't send you anything? She doesn't send you tricolours and biscuits?
Tricolours and biscuits, and bags of tea. Me and my mom have this funny thing where we're literally like kind of best friends. I remember one time I could talk to my mom about like Man United and football and Wayne Rooney and all this stuff. We would genuinely hang out. It was just like a solid hang. Still do. And we have this kind of, like, I like Roy Keane because my mom liked Roy Keane, you know? And she just liked his character. My mom kind of epitomizes the quiet, not rude, but just quiet. And like, if she likes you, you'll know all about it. But it, like, very extremely loving person who, but is very quiet about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't worry about you while you're on tour?
She probably does. She's told me sometimes, you know, you think about, I worry about me on tour sometimes. She thinks about, like, you know, when obviously time difference and stuff, like, she thinks about the fact that, like, when they go to sleep, I'll be finishing a show in whatever, Arizona, and then getting on a bus and driving for 10 hours.
Yeah.
You know, I would go nuts if it was my child. I'd be freaked. But yeah, my sister described my mom's love recently as quiet and assured. And I think that's exactly what it is. You know, it's not this massive gushy thing where she's kind of like, I'm so proud of you and stuff. But like, if my mom kind of tells me a gig was good, I'm like, I know that was very good.
Right.
Yeah.
She doesn't suffer fools.
Not at all. No.
We want to talk about the idea of being a solo artist.
Yeah.
Do you think that helps you with this fatigue? Just only having to worry about you and the team around
Definitely.
you, as opposed to having, and we have friends in bands, we've met people in bands. There's always one guy that has them worried on tour because he didn't come home last night, or where's he?
For sure.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that. Not that it's like that for me. I'm very lucky with the team I have and stuff, but it's the same. I was very determined. I was in a band previously, and I was very determined for my shows not to be like, here's me. And here's a bunch of employees playing bass and piano and guitar and all that stuff. I wanted it to feel like a band. Yeah. Because artists I love, like Ben Howard and stuff, yes, it's his name, but also it feels like they play music together and they have this sort of cohesion and stuff. So that was very important to me. But in terms of decision making, I like it. I can't imagine having to be like, what do you think? What do you think? Are you happy with this? Are we all happy?
Yeah.
And songwriting and stuff, that would kill me. I feel like quite a solo human.
Yeah.
You know?
And you don't really have the burden of creating this music with them?
It's quite a separate thing. Yeah. And I love that, you know, because like if you tour for 7 years together, you're in each other's pockets, you know, and it's full on. And so I need that separation. Yeah.
How do you de-stress when you're
PlayStation?
Yeah,
man. PlayStation. No, football ideally. But I played football recently and I was just off the pace. I need to get back to it. Also, if I go back playing for Crumlin, for example, it's quite a high standard of football. And I had a friend who is within that league and kind of knew about it. And I was like, I'd love to go back and play. And he was like, someone will do you. Like, someone will smash you.
Of course.
And I was like, really? Like, you think so? And he was like, I guarantee someone will try and break you up.
Because he gets to talk about that for 20 years at the pub.
Horrible.
He took you out.
God, it was the edge from you too on the Conan O'Brien show. He told this thing about, you know, this part of Irish culture where, you know, like he told this joke where there's two people who were walking down the street there in Ireland and they see a huge house on the hill. Yeah. And the American guy goes, one day that'll be me up on the hill there. Yeah. And the Irishman's like, one day I'll get that fucking guy on the hill.
I'll get him.
I'll get him.
Yeah, there's a similar thing about like lobsters in a tank. And like, and there's like, you know, when they're live in the thing and one of them is trying to get out and someone's like, don't worry, they're Irish lobsters. The rest of them will.
They get them.
Yeah. And then that's one thing we have. It's one quality we've inherited as Australians from the Irish, the tall poppy.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I haven't fallen victim to it. Maybe I'm not successful enough. Maybe I'm in this lovely thing.
Well, maybe,
but there's also a certain type that is allowed to prosper too. You know what I mean? You two were sitting ducks for that because they were bigger than Ben-Hur.
Sunglasses inside.
Yeah.
That'll always get you.
That'll get you.
In Ireland, that will get you. Yeah.
Oh, like over Christmas, I went home to see my family and a couple of old mates. And as I walked in to the pub, a mate of mine goes, here he is, big podcast guy.
Yeah.
Also,
completely, yeah. Oh, like my friends from home, it's nice to see all day long. It's that stuff, which is fantastic, and I can handle it. I like to think, but I don't know. I think
keeps you humble, man.
Yeah, like you said, certain people are more sort of liable to get hit with that stuff. Yeah.
There's a musician, Australian rapper called Briggs, and I know he's in with the Kneecap kind of guys, Aboriginal rapper from country Victoria.
Right.
And he says he said he's got an answer when he gets bailed up at the pub like that.
Yeah.
When he comes home, and he said they'll say to you, someone you don't even know or someone you remember from school
Yeah.
but you don't know that well, go, oh, geez, you think you've done pretty well for yourself.
Yeah.
He goes, no, but you do.
Yeah, you need a good one, because if you fall victim to like, oh yeah, well, you wish, like, you're dead. Yeah, that's exactly what they want.
So just quickly, I had my first Irish spice bag
Did you?
the other day. Do you like them?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Did
you?
you feel horrific afterwards?
Afterwards, I was like, "What the hell have I done to myself?"
Yeah.
And then, but on the way down, lovely.
Yeah, in terms of food regret, it is above everything.
Well, you have
feel-
to do it when you're already full of regret. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
true.
There's no more. The ceiling. You're at the ceiling of regret. This
Yeah.
can only make you feel better.
Yeah.
I'm more of a Dublin coddle man myself.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Just leftovers.
Totally. Well,
a
yeah,
stew.
I get asked a lot, like when you're traveling, you're like, what's your favorite Irish meal? It's like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
coddle is wild. But, you guys seem very up on your Irish.
Yeah. Well, that's what you spend. We've done it a couple times. When you're in Ireland, it's like carbohydrates and Guinness, right?
That's true, I guess.
Especially when you're on tour. I mean, you go to Ireland, you go home.
It's still the same.
We go to every single pub that
it's
ever
still
existed.
carbs and Guinness nowadays. Yeah.
So we had this night in Belfast where we just had a huge night in Dublin. Hopped in this car, went up to Belfast, did a black cab tour, and then we were back at the hotel, and we asked this bloke on the desk, it's like, oh, could you call us a cab? And he goes, that's not how it works here. You had to download this app, and you had to do all this stuff like that, and you had to call the cab to you.
Yeah.
So anyway, we hopped in this cab and said, oh, can you take us into town?
Monday night.
Like pissing sideways rain, the middle of winter. And this bloke goes, all right, I'll take you to this place called the Heart Bar.
Okay.
And we go in there, deserted. Yeah. Not a soul in there except for a group of about 20 Americans from Los Angeles. Loud as hell. Like laughing, yipping and yahooing. And we were like, what the hell is going on here? So our mate who we were traveling with, Ed goes over there and asks them and goes, sorry, what brings you guys to this pub in Belfast on a Monday night? And they were like, our cousin is about to play at the Ulster Hall.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, oh, who is that? And they go, The Game.
What the hell?
So
it was happening.
We go, all
It was
right.
happening in Belfast.
So it's like, all right, let's jam in 3 more pints of harp here.
Yeah.
And then we went off to the Ulster Hall and watched
See the game.
The Game, yeah.
And smoke those buds they just gave us in this bar on a Monday night. And we went, and that was probably one of the more dangerous gigs I've ever been to. The Game in Ulster Hall on a Monday
Belfast?
night. Yeah.
Was it packed?
It was
I
packed.
feel like that would be brilliant.
It was great, but
Yeah.
there was at least 2 to 3 layers of metal detectors getting in.
Right, yeah.
And then the crowd were jumping from the mezzanines.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
That stuff is kind of sweet. I saw Kendrick in Dublin
Yeah.
play to
that
about
was-
1,000 people.
Yeah.
Not because it was some crazy show. Like, it was at the point when he was playing to 1,000 people. It was
Yeah.
wild. It was before Good Kid, Mad City came out, and it was just. I couldn't
Oh,
believe
right,
it.
okay.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
On
I
the
was
come
at
up.
the side of the room.
It is funny, and Australia has our favourites that come and see us all the time.
Yes.
One that just not many people can understand is Pink. Pink is here every couple of years. She'll do 7 Rod Laver arenas,
Heard
12.
that, yeah.
And I think it's because there's something about Pink that appeals to the Australian younger mother. You know what I mean?
Right, okay.
Like that kind of rural, kind of steel magnolia thing. You know, like don't take any shit.
Yeah.
But we've always had these others, and one that was always big, and I know Ireland had the same, was the American country musician Charlie Pride.
Right.
And you'll meet particularly in the Aboriginal community, you'll meet all these old blokes who never ever visited the city except for once when Charlie Pride was playing. And it's funny that relationship you can develop with a people.
I just feel an awful lot of gratitude. I don't see it like. I feel like I'm incredibly lucky to do what I do. So if I go to a place and people show up, it's just kind of a given to me that I'll come back. You know, I just like, and not in a corny way, but it just does mean a lot to me. And I am curious about it. We played, I don't know how long ago, maybe 2 Decembers ago, I jumped up on stage with Zach Bryan in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I guess we were a bit out of the city, but like he had never been to Australia before.
Yeah.
And of course his music's big and all that stuff, but like there was just 60,000 people just crammed into a field. And I was just like, where are these people coming from? Is it all just people from Melbourne?
Yeah.
Like, I think his music, that type of music, I know he doesn't sort of label himself as country, but that type of songwriting, I guess people love it here, right?
Strikes a
So,
chord, yeah.
oh man, like he could have done it 10 times, I'd say.
Well, all the best, man.
Thank you.
You've got your work cut out for you, and as
I
you
do,
said,
yeah.
You're going. What you said? It's as in. I mean this in time of the turnaround, the travel itinerary. To go from Sydney in the Domain. That's on 16th of March, and then you are in
Boston
on the 18th.
Boston.
I'll be in Boston. Yeah, we're doing 2 shows in Boston, so like a smaller one the 18th and then the headline on the 19th, yeah.
mish-nyach.
mish-nyach.
All right. Thank you, mate. Thank you for giving us the rundown and having a yarn with us.
Nice
And,
one, guys. Thank you.
We'll be trying to get up there and have a look.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. Nice one.